Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to accidentally showing a pixel of your elbow and getting one tap by a Mosling from 500 meters away, otherwise known as a Tarkov video. And today we're going to be jumping straight into Tarkov Tips episode 2, where we go over lots of lovely little tidbits that new players and veterans alike can take scope of to really take advantage of their Tarkov experience, to better improve their chances of making it out to raids. Out of raids, even. I can English. Now, before we go any further, I would like to humbly ask, if you get the chance, make sure you give the YouTube channel a good old subscribe, maybe like this video. I know I've done this before I even done the content, but hey, it bears requesting at this stage because, hey, most of you don't watch to the end of the video, I'm just saying. But if you also feel like joining us, we record these on stream to get you guys involved as well. So if you feel like joining us on Twitch, there shall be a link in the description below. So by all means, come by and join us. So as we break into these tips, I think this first tip is probably one of the most important but least understood tips in all of Tarkov and most first-person shooters, especially when it comes to having the dichotomy between professional player and casual player. And this first tip is re-peeking and the art of doing so badly or well. Re-peeking. When engaging within a firefight, a lot of players will panic and die to not knowing how to make decisions in the correct manner. But one of the biggest tips that helped me start winning fights and avoiding embarrassing deaths was understanding positioning and patience. The most important notion of this was re-peeking. But what do we mean by re-peeking? Well, when engaging in a firefight, you and your enemy will be blaring guns down upon each other, and whenever you have run out of bullets or decide to take cover again, that is when you lose information of the fight. Now, in the hypothetical battle, your enemy may have already re-peeked or not have taken cover at all, meaning his crosshairs are trained nicely on your location, ready to blam you in the face when you decide to re-peek that location you're sat at. Which can often lead to some rather embarrassing situations of you getting punched in the face by a bullet before you even taken recognition of where your enemy has moved to or whether they've moved at all. And I'm sure we've all had those experiences where we could say to ourselves, well, he didn't have a sight on where I was. This is bull poop. How dare he? This is clearly hacking. That, my good sir, is the joy of re-peeking. It may seem like you're in cover, but they've already seen you peek and blotted you in the face before you get a chance to react. So what do? Never re-peek unless you have information. Obviously, this can be a bit of a subjective thing, but more often than not, in a straight-up even fight where you know you are roughly even on firepower, you want to reposition wherever possible to keep your enemy guessing, as it's going to take longer for them to retrain their sights on your new position. So always stay active, don't re-peek, and take the strategical advantage. Tarkov is one of the most strategical combat games out there, and just going in like it was Fortnite is not going to help you. So, Tarkov tip 2 is insuring your gear. Insuring your gear is super important, but why is that, you may ask? Well, let me tell you, Billy. Insuring is improving the probability of making more value of your weapons. When you insure your gear from this window right here, the way insuring works is super simple. When you die in a raid, you'll say to yourself, well, drat, now my gear's gone. But if you insure your gear, there is a probability you might be able to get that gear back, and may not have to spend money on investing into an entirely new kit. As when you die in Tarkov and your body is just sat there stinking away through a raid that's in progress like an overgrown loot-filled pinata, let's just say, for example, if your gear you have on you is insured, then the timer in that when the timer in that raid runs out and the raid closes fully, that gear is banked and will be returned to you via your inbox message down in the bottom right after a 24-hour cooldown period, giving you thus A, your gear back, and B, more gear to use that you don't have to kit out yourself. Although keep in mind, if someone else loots your gear and leaves with it, it's still gone for good. But honestly, with the recent rework, unless you're insuring Fort Armor and Gen 4 Assault Armor, you're not likely to spend more than 10k per insurance, so there's no reason why you should not be insuring. Tarkov tip 3 is scav movement. It's no secret scavs are either complete dimbeciles or the aim-bottiest pieces of... Yes, you get the idea, but there's some tricks to getting around scavs being pesky nuisances, and that is the fact that scavs are, well, robots. That's right, scavs are very predictable robots following very predictable paths that are generally always the same. Generally speaking, scavs will always spawn in and around the same place all the time, and follow similar paths all the time as well. So when you encounter a scav in a raid, whether you die to them or not, then it's highly likely that that is a path traveled by said scavs. And where there's one, there's always others for the most part. unless it's a Scav player, in which case ignore all this notion. And if you've watched my other video, you'll know the difference between Scav and Scav players. Just keep an eye on how they move. Scav players are not really that robotic and generally have some level of intelligence. I say some level, they'll still one-tap you with a Mosin, but that's getting sidetracked. Anyway, keeping an eye on Scav movement and understanding where Scav movement is going to help you a lot here, and will vicariously allow you to learn your map awareness in the process. Keeping in mind, you also have to keep your eye out for sniper scouts, which are usually placed in precarious locations around every map to make you wonder where the hell you're getting shot from, and are usually placed in places where you are unable to loot them or get up to yourself. So sometimes it might be worth looking up and around a little bit to figure out where they might be. Tarkov tip 4 is fashion. Now you might be sat there going, the heck? But hear me out. When you play this with your friends and you all load in with each other, then you just look back and forth between your 1 to 5 other companions, and you realize you all shopped at the exact same store in Interchange and all bought the exact same poopy brown shirts, and it's hard to tell who's Boris and which one of you's Nikolai. One of the biggest tips I can give to avert this issue is, well, whenever you play in a team, it's worth making some team synchronicity. Ragman conveniently sells colored armbands just for such an occasion. Or heck, just something that you can recognize so you don't accidentally shoot your friend in the head with half-decently kitted AK-74U after mistaking them for a sneaky little scav boy trying to plunder your loot. Not that I've ever done this. You would be surprised how often it can happen where you're in the middle of a firefight and you look around to try and figure out who your ally is and who your enemy is, and then you confuse each other and then you accidentally shoot your teammate. So, having colored armbands or something to discern yourself from your enemy can often make or break a situation where you want to make sure you're giving good callouts. Having voice comms can often avert this, but even with that, sometimes bad visuals can often make it so that you end up killing your ally rather than the enemy. So, doing anything in your power to try and give some visual disparity between you and the enemy will help you a lot here. Tarkov tip 5 is hopping to victory. In Tarkov, you can actually do sort of a bunny hop from other games, but maybe not quite so flamboyantly, where you kind of hop jump kind of thing, which gives you a bit more distance than your normal jump. Now, the way you do this is pretty simple. If you jump at the start of a run, then you'll instantly do a big jump. Now, if this was a typical guide, I'd just leave it there, but we're going to take a look at as to why and how this is important. So the way a bunny hop works is based on the foot you jump with. When you're running and you make a jump with your right foot is touching the ground, that will initiate the big jump. I'd assume because all people who live in Russia, USEC or not, are right-footed, and apparently lefties don't exist in Russia, so yeah. Right foot power, question mark? But this is important because there are several places and situations within Tarkov where big jumps can often help you get places that a normal jump couldn't, such as the gurney on Factory or the rocks on Woods. So getting that extra bit of strategical movement into your running set can often give you the discerning factor between death or victory, or managing to escape or die horribly to some dude with a fully kitted M4. This next hot tip is useful hotkeys. This one's a bit more for the transparency's sake, because I often see people struggling with this a lot within their Tarkov experience when it comes to combat and general utility. But by default, there are some very useful hotkeys that can help speed things up and generally help with your endeavors within Tarkov. 1. Tapping the middle mouse button will auto-identify items rather than having to right-click them. 2. Pressing the delete key on an item will drop it from your inventory, or an enemy inventory for that matter. Pressing Alt and then Q or E will allow you to lean out from cover, like a peek if you will. 4. Flashlights and laser sights are turned on with T, but can rotate their different modes with Control T, and often will give you different utilities depending on the light source and how you want to use these light sources. Another very useful hotkey that can come in handy in a combat situation is Alt-T. Alt-T allows you to inspect your magazine and also look at the ammo that is next in line to be shot. 6. And just for flamboyancy's sake, if you want to check the swagger of your gun, press L to inspect your awesome looking gun. And the last tidbit for today are suppressors. Suppressors! You may think this is a bit obvious, suppressors suppressing sound and helping with recoil in whatever way they do, but a lot of silencers in Tarkov, much like their counterparts in real life, will divert gas away and smoke away from the end of the muzzle and barrel. So if you're using, for example, the M4 here, you'll see a lots of smoke with firing without the silencer, but using the M4 with a suppressor at the end of it, we see a much clearer image of what we're shooting and the gas being diverted away from the muzzle. And if we remember back to the statement at the start of this guide, information is key. So having more visibility will always be much more pertinent and helpful to you in an engagement. This can be more or less effective on certain types of guns, but the AKs and M4s will see the difference with smoke distribution most pertinently. And I would highly recommend you utilize these whenever you can. But of course, build semantics are all down to your personal taste. It's just nice to know that certain silencers can definitely make a bit of a difference visually when it comes to the gas and smoke release. And that's the guide, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, it's a quite quick snap-fire one, but with this, we're trying to help people get into Tarkov without spending 5 hours watching a single video. So, if you have any suggestions for videos you'd like to see in the future, please do leave a comment down below. Again, we are sort of new to the Tarkov guide making semantics, but we will happily do whatever we can to help you enjoy your time in Tarkov. And again, if you feel like joining us, there'll be a link to our Twitch down below. So come and join us if you so choose. And we will hope to see all you fellow top hatters in the next video. Thank you for watching, and ta-ra!